All right, good afternoon, guys. Back for the afternoon session. So hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day here. It's just a little after 1 o'clock here. On from 1 to 2. Just making sure to see if anybody's in this session here. Looks like I got somebody. You can mind saying hello or writing on the sidebar here for the live chat. Just going to kind of go over what we were talking about earlier, and just kind of almost the same stuff that I did on my morning session. You could watch any of these at your own convenience, and if you have questions, this is the time to ask any questions. Looks like I got a couple more people coming in at this session time here, so just want to say good afternoon and hello. Type in some stuff here. If you could say hi, if you have any questions on the side, you can write in. And hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Just to kind of go over what we've been talking about from the morning here. There's cell projects that are looking wonderful. More of them are coming in through email and through Microsoft Teams. So get those turned in to me. A lot of the students are turning those in, so they're looking really good. Doing a good job on your projects, turning them in with the candy that you've used for the cell organelles, and telling us what those cell organelles do inside the cell and how they make them function as a whole. So good job on getting your work turned in. If you have any questions, you could always email to and communicate with me on Microsoft Teams, since I'm on that all day long anyhow. So the best way to get a hold of me is through the email or this live stream. We'll be talking about plants for today. That's our topic. And like I said, if you missed this, you could get the morning segment there too. I have it live on Ferko TV here as well, so you have a couple of things to look at. So let's go ahead and get started on plants, and I'll tell you about your project that you'll have that'll be due on Friday on plants there too. So you have a little activity to do for this week at home. Hopefully you're outside enjoying this wonderful weather. I haven't even stepped outside yet today, so hopefully I'll get a chance to take a break to step outside after this segment here. So it looks like a wonderful day, and it was a hot weekend here. Did take a hike yesterday, so it was kind of nice to get outside on a trail and do some hiking in this hot weather, since a lot of the beaches and pools seem to be closed. So let's talk a little bit about plants. I'm just going to talk a little bit about plants and some of their main parts and their main functions. So there are 5 main parts to the plant that we're going to learn about today. Starting with the first part are the roots of the plant. So if anyone wants to type in on the sidebar, if you're listening, what are the job or what is the function of the roots? If anyone knows that's in this live session, you can write on the side. Hi, looks like we got Talon. Talon, can you tell us um, what is the main function of the roots of the plants? If you want to take a guess, you can just write it in, or if you happen to know, what do you think might be the main function of the roots of plants? Since that's our new topic here. Got a couple people in this live feed right now. It's okay if you don't know. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to go over all the answers here to these. So the main function of the root is to keep the plant in place. Okay, it gives it its support for the plant. So it supports, keeps the plants anchored into the ground. It takes in water, all right, from the soil, and also takes in food from the soil. So water and food from the soil is how the roots transport it to other parts of the plant for the plant to survive. So the root is probably one of the most important parts. So it is one of the 5 most important parts of the plant. So the root, if you want to jot those down, or you just note these to yourself whenever you're researching your plants for this week, you're going to have a little activity due Friday. Oh, very good. To get water. So good job, Talon. You did type that in there after I was flipping back and forth for a different screen, and I have another computer open, so I have a few different things in front of me right now. So good job on answering it. To get water and transport that water. Very good. Excellent. All right. So the roots, they keep the plant in place. They get water from the soil and water from the nutrients there water, and food to transport. The next part of the plant that's very important is the stem. And if anyone, Talon or you or anybody else in here, what is the job of the stem? If you want to take a guess or write an answer, what do you think the main function of the stem is for? So, you want to answer that if you can. If not, I will provide the answer to that. Let's think about the stem of the plant, what it might do. So the roots keep the plant anchored into the ground, and the stem, what would the stem actually do? Does anyone want to take a guess there? Who's in here? Got a few people in here. Talon, I know you're one of them. Okay, that's fine. If you type, oh, there we go. To transfer food. Very good. That's definitely an answer that will is correct there in a way to transfer food. Very good. All right. But it also helps keep the plant stand straight up. So you are right in that aspect because it acts like an elevator too, and it takes food and water up to the rest of the plant. So it does transfer food. So very good. The stem transfers food and it keeps the plant straight. It keeps it standing up. So very good. So those are some basic functions of the stem. Very good. Let's move on to the next part of the plant that's very important, and that is the leaves. Okay, most of us know that plants have leaves. So what is the main job or function of the leaf? Think about that. We talked about that in class when we were studying plant cells too. So Talon, you or anybody else in here might want to try to answer, what is the function of the leaves? What is its main job or main responsibility? You just type it in the sidebar. You're 2 for 2 already there, Talon. So very good. You got both answers correct on the roots and the stems. So good job. All right. Um, excellent. Want to take another guess there? It'll be great if you give me a guess on the root. Or the leaves. I'm sorry. We're talking about the leaves. Think about the leaves, what they might do. Its main job or main responsibility. Anybody else want to say hi that came in? Looks like a couple other people came in. I got 3 people, looks like right now. All right, but the answer for the leaves, if you type it in after, that's okay. The main responsibility of the leaves is it gives the plant its photosynthesis or energy from the sun. So it helps breathe in air and it takes in sunlight, which it gets the photosynthetic areas for the plant to feed. So it gets its energy from sunlight. Okay, so the leaves take in sunlight and it helps breathe in air, and those are what's going to help the plant get its photosynthesis, the process of photosynthesis. Very good. All right, so that is the function of the leaf. So breathes in air and takes in sunlight. So for photosynthesis, that's the main things you need to know about the leaves. Very good. All right, the next number 4, doesn't matter the order that they're in, but the 4th main function of plants are its flowers, okay? Not just the flower in general, but inside a plant there's always an area what they call the flower. So what are the jobs, or what is the job of the flower? Does anyone know what the main job or main function of the flower? Oh, okay, looks like Talon, you're right. You're right. You're 3 for 3, Talon. You got that last one right too. Collect sunlight, and that was for the leaves. Very good. So excellent on that. So good job. So Talon, or anybody else in here, since you're the one responding, you're 3 for 3. I'm going to have you try to go 4 for 4 here. Can you tell me what the function of the flower of the plant is? What do you think may be the function of the flower? Not the flower itself, but inside a plant, there's a part called the flower. Very good. You put the pollinate. Excellent. That is the correct answer as well. You're on fire today. So way to go for participating on Monday here, Monday afternoon. So yeah, it attracts insects with colors and smells. So the insects could pollinate the flowers and then to make seeds. That's the main function of the flower, to make seeds and to pollinate the flower. Very good. So insects go ahead and help in that process as well. So good job. So thank you for participating. Those answers are great. Look at that, 4 for 4 on that. So very good. All right, let's see if we get a 5 for 5. The last part of the plant of its main function or part of the plant that helps plants being plants, are the seeds. So what do you think the seeds do? What are their main responsibilities? What are their main functions or responsibilities of seeds? So Talon, go 5 for 5 here, or if anybody else wants to jump in on that. So we have the seeds, the main responsibility or main functions of the seeds. We want to take a guess or try to get an answer on that one there. Let's see, Talon, did you ever answer? Not yet. I know you're in here. Um, Okay, to germinate, very good. That's that. You are 5 for 5. Good job, Talon. Germinate, very good. And to germinate means to start a process of a new plant. Very good. To have a small plant inside of them, basically the reproduction, how they're going to reproduce. Very good. The way the plants make other plants just like them. So they drop. They drop to the soil. They're usually carried by the wind, these seeds, or water, or by other animals. So they usually have a protective covering or coating as well on some of the types of seeds that are used to be dispersed. So very good. They help germinate to start a new baby plant and start a new process of form of life. Very good. All right, let me ask, since you're on fire here, you answered all 5 of these correctly, so good job answering those. Let me ask you this, Talon, or anybody else in the chat here. Why are plants important? What do they provide? Why are plants important? Think about that. Why are plants important? Not only for oxygen and carbon dioxide, but think about just in general. Yeah, they do help us breathe, but what are other ways they're important for us? Why are plants important? Think about that one. Give you a chance to write something if you want there, Talon. I know you're in here. So why are plants important? All right, well, if you're not writing something there, I'll just kind of provide, but if you can add in, if you maybe it's something you're. Oh, okay. Looks like you said to make food. Very good. Good job, Talon. That is correct. That is one of the main importances of plants. They do provide us and other animals and living things food. So for us, think about all the fruits, grapes and apples and oranges that are provided by plants. Very good, from apple trees and so on. And they also provide shelter for a lot of organisms as well. A lot of animals use trees and plants as homes. So shelter and food are probably some of their main importances, along with providing carbon dioxide and oxygen to our environment there too. Okay, the giving off and releasing of that. So good job on answering that. Now I'm going to get a little bit more into detail with some other things on plants and the types of plants, kind of breaking down more on the classification side of things and a couple groupings that you need to know. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about the project here right now, so you can listen on what you need to do for the project. You're to research 3 plants go out into your neighborhood and find 3 types of plants that could be in your backyard, your garden. They can be down the street in your neighbor's house. There might be a creek or a stream. They can be any types of plants, ferns to lilies to dandelions to all different types of the plants that you might have in your neighborhood, even trees. Magnolia trees, spruce trees, conifers. You might have some hardwoods in your backyard. So all different types of trees. You're going to research 3 of them. And those 5 parts I just really talked about, I would like you to elaborate on the type of plant that you have and talk about how their stem, leaves, their seeds, their roots, and how their which are the flowers, are all work together, and how they may be different from one another. All types of flowers operate differently in different classifications. Ferns are different than dandelions, so they reproduce differently with spores instead of having seeds. So I want you to research the types of, the type of plant that you have, and provide me information on them. And you're going to really compare and contrast, and you can do them in like 3 separate paragraphs on a piece of paper, and you can send that in to me, and that'll be due on Friday of this upcoming week here. So you have the rest of the week to work on that and kind of get outside and explore some of the plants in your neighborhood. So if you have any questions on the project, you can ask during this time too. So I'm just kind of, it's already out on my Microsoft Teams page there too, which is to do. And also there's a brain pop too. I assigned a brain pop. If you have access to Clever, you can go right on the Clever. I assigned it through Clever. There is maybe a 5-minute video on a brain pop on seed plants. And then you have a little list of vocabulary to complete with that, and then take the 10-question quiz, which I'll take a grade on that too. So you have a brain pop due by Friday, and a research of the 3 types of plants you chose to research in your neighborhood, comparing and contrasting. So I'm just talking about some of those 5 main importances. Like I said, they're going to be a little bit different for each type of plant. Their roots might be a little different structured. Their leaves might be a little bit different. Okay. All right. Looks like you wrote in here, your brain pop is not working. Okay, Talon, try to get it to work. If you can't, no big deal for today, but maybe later in the week it'll work. You'll have the whole week to try to get it to do. So, and sometimes with technical difficulties, you can't get onto a certain application, but I understand that. So try to get what you can get done on it. If you can get it done, that'll be great. I understand if there's some kind of issue that you may have with getting it loaded. That's always a challenge. I'm not the best on the computer here myself. I'm learning as I'm going here. I'm not the most computer like person here too, so I'm trying to learn some of these other programs too. So I try to help as much as I can, and you can communicate with me through email or through Microsoft Teams as well too if you can't get certain things to work. So hopefully it'll work later in the week. If it doesn't work today, you should have like your Clever password. I believe the Clever password will help you get onto that site for that. So that might be something that'll help you to work in on that one there. Let me go on back to, I kind of explained both of those assignments. I'll still reiterate and restate those later on if anybody else has questions or people keep coming into the chat room or the live session here on the Ferko TV. So on for the science session. I'm also on here from 5 to 6 tonight too. So if you missed the earlier session, you can still go back and watch any of these sessions. It's kind of a restate almost of all 3 sessions there. But going further on into the groups of plants here. There are 2 main groups of plants, really 3, but we're going to focus on 2. One is called non-vascular, another one is called vascular, and then fungi. Fungi is really not considered a group of plants, but some people classify them as plants, but we're not going to talk much on fungi. We're going to focus on vascular and non-vascular, and your algae and stuff like that. Now, your vascular plants, they contain a vascular tissue that transports water from a top to bottom, usually through a stem. All right, so the vascular plants are going to be the majority of the plants that you have in your neighborhood or in your yard are going to be vascular plants. The non-vascular, like I said, they're going to be some of your mosses, algae. If you live around like a watery like area, like a pond, you might be able to find some of those. Usually mosses like growing on rocks. Those are some areas that are a little cooler temperatures. They can be found in all different types of temperatures. We might be able to find some moss around here in Florida. Of course, you got the Spanish moss. If you watched the video of Mr. Cano and I, he had some Spanish moss in that video with the science segment there. So, then the type of plant that I had was a vascular plant. It was a water lily. Okay, so it was an invasive species, meaning that they're not from here and they kind of take over this territory. They actually take up some of the other plants that are to grow here. So they're kind of ones that are brought here from other places and they're able to thrive, and then they cause havoc into our ecosystems and so on. So that's that. Fungi, like I said, you don't have to really focus on fungi. Those are going to be like your mushrooms, your lichens. We're not going to focus on the fungi so much right this second. The ones I want you to learn a little bit more about are the non-vascular plants. Like I said, you might have a moss or an algae in your um, like a pond. If you have a pond, you definitely will have some algae growing there. Most likely not mosses, but non-vascular plants like mosses and algae, they have no vascular tissue. So that means they have no stems, they have no leaves, they have no roots. Okay, they're low growing and they're close to the ground. So they usually grow on the ground. They don't go up in trees or real high, high up. Other than the Spanish moss, that's usually that would be one that usually goes a little higher because see it hanging in the trees. But majority of them are found to the ground. They reach maturity really quick. They can grow in a variety of varying climates, from cold to warm, and they produce food in every cell, which is unique with the non-vascular plants like mosses um, and algae. So mosses, I'll just talk a little bit about mosses here right now. They are a flowerless plant. They don't have flowers or seeds to them, and they lie flat and grow in moist areas. And they actually look like a carpet, like a appearance. If you see them, it looks like kind of like a carpet, is what they kind of would look like. So that's a little bit about that. Just seeing if anybody else has written anything in here. Looks like I still have a few people in here right now. Um, okay, if you have any other questions there too, of course, you could always use a sidebar to talk. I could see what you're writing there and communicate with me. That's the best way to do that. So just talking, just keep it moving on. Sometimes I get sidetracked here a little bit. Continue on with mosses here. Um, it's how they're usually used by gardeners for mulch because it helps them keep moist and close to the plant roots as well. So that's one thing they're used in our economic system as well, from like gardeners as mulch there too. So they're pretty unique type plants. Now the next one I briefly talked about was algae. Okay, you might have seen algae before in an aquarium. Usually you see it in pond water. I've had students in the past, we looked at some pond water, brought some in and had some algae. We got to look at some of the cells of algae under the microscopes. I know we didn't have a chance to do that. If we were back in school, we probably could have been looking at that kind of stuff right about now, this time of year too. So hopefully school will resume sooner than later, and we can get into using some of those things like microscopes and stuff like that to identify and look at some of these cells and shapes of different organisms. But algae has different shapes and sizes and colors. It can be, doesn't have to be green. It could be like a reddish color as well too, or orangish color. They could be in a variety of different colors, even blue green, like blue green algae is another common thing found in certain ponds. Um, they're simple plants that contain photosynthetic pigments, okay, like chlorophyll, which gives it its green color. And algae is usually found in wet soil, so usually around a wet, soggy area. And sometimes you'll see algae build up in an aquarium. If you have an aquarium at home, you'll see that build up in an aquarium too. All right, looks like here. Oh, Talon, you wrote something here as before we can you use elephant ears? Absolutely. You have that plant in your yard, you could absolutely use that. That's a pretty cool looking plant. Elephant ears are usually a large vascular plant with really large leaves, so that's how it gets its name, elephant ears. So yeah, that would be a great one to use there, Talon. So as one of the three you could use. So you have to come up with two more in your area, your yard, or neighborhood there that you could come find information on. So yeah, you could use the elephant ears as one of the three to make sure you tell me about if it's roots, what the roots are like, what the stems like. You can even take some pictures of it too if you choose, but I'm not requiring you to take pictures. I'm looking for you more to do the research on this project. So absolutely, that's a good one to use for that. So good job. Elephant ears would be a unique one to have to see, since I haven't seen that plant in a while. I did have some of that in my neighborhood where I grew up back up in Pennsylvania, so pretty cool looking plant. Moving on, just after algae, we're going to talk a little bit about vascular plants, and the elephant ears that Tella mentioned there is a vascular plant. So it has vascular tissue, and the tissues that move food and nutrients around the plants. Leaves, stems, and roots are some parts that were the main parts of the plant that we talked about, they are all included in a vascular plant. So those are some of their main functions. And they produce food for the plant only in the leaves, like photosynthesis as well. So vascular plants, there's a majority of the plants you're going to come across in your on this project probably. Like I said, if it's not a vascular plant, it's a non-vascular plant, it's going to be mosses or algae or something that's growing small or close to the ground. Maybe Spanish moss, you could use that. That would be a non-vascular plant. So if you have one that you want to include there, the Spanish moss that Mr. Canalou was talking about in the video, that is one that is non-vascular. All right. Some more things on vascular and non-vascular or vascular plants. They have a long lifespan, okay, or one season or many seasons. So they're a little bit longer lifespans than some of the mosses. So they grow tall or wide, okay, and they have chlorophyll for photosynthesis as well. So chlorophyll, which gives it its green coloration or its green pigment. So examples of this would be ferns, trees, grasses, and flowering plants are all classified under this category right here under vascular plants. All right, what about, okay, this looks like you wrote something else here. Fig tree, absolutely, and Spanish moss. I think those are three excellent choices that you have there. So those are perfect. If you have those in your backyard or your area, you could research those and you can look at their stems, you could look at their leaves, you could compare them and contrast them and write something about each one of those. Yeah, in like 3 separate paragraphs about each one of them and then send that to me in by Friday. So it looks like you'll have 2 of them that will be vascular plants. Which 2, Talon, do you think will be the vascular plants of those 3 that you mentioned? Elephant ears, fig tree, and Spanish moss. And then you have one that's going to be non-vascular. So if you could tell me on the group chat, that would be great. Which one would be which there? Which one would be vascular and which one would be non-vascular? You have 2 that will be vascular. Like I said, the majority of your plants are vascular, and you have 2, or you have 1 that's going to be non-vascular. I just explained the difference between those. So let's see if you are able to categorize those 3 plants that you have there and what categories that they would fall into. Let's see, I'll give you a minute there. If you don't know, I could help provide that answer for you, but I'll see if you can maybe dissect that answer and see which one would be of those 3. 2 are going to be vascular, 1's going to be non-vascular. So I'm giving you a clue. And if you just write which one, you could write on that group chat there so I can see if you understand the difference between them of those categories. So like I said, going back onto a vascular plant, they have chlorophyll for photosynthesis, ferns, trees, grasses, flowering plants. They are going to be your vascular. They're going to be categorized as your vascular plant. Okay. So then 2 groups of vascular plants are also broken down into the next type of category, and they're called the gymnosperms and angiosperms. So only your vascular plants have these. So you could include this in your information. Obviously, the more you can tell me about your plant, the probably the better score you'll receive because you're really showing the research that you're putting into the to the project of what you can tell me of how they are different from one another and how they are the same, and some interesting facts about each one. So angiosperms are vessel seeds, meaning that they have a case, okay, something covering around them. Now, gymnosperms, they're just like a plain seed. They don't have a case. They call it a naked seed, so they have nothing protecting it. All right. So angiosperms and gymnosperms, you could include that if you have a vascular plant. Let's see if you have an answer yet here, since okay, you have fig tree and Spanish moss and fig tree and elephant ears. Okay, well, I'll give you a clue. The fig tree and elephant ears are going to be your vascular plant, all right? And your Spanish moss is going to be your non-vascular plant because remember I said mosses, they're usually low-lying. They don't have a root system as much. It's not really that high. They kind of grow on other things. So they're going to be classified as your non-vascular. So your Spanish moss is going to be separate from your fig tree and your elephant ear plant. So good job. So then you could compare and contrast those two, or all three of them, but you could kind of put elephant ears and fig tree kind of together because they are a vascular plant, but then they're going to be a little bit different, maybe from their seed casings or their angiosperms or gymnosperms. That's something you'll have to research there. All right, so I was explaining the gymnosperms and angiosperms. So angiosperms, vessel seed, meaning it is covered with a casing around it or covering. Gymnosperm, there's no seed. Okay, just by itself, they call it a naked seed. So those are some of the differences between that. So only vascular plants, so your fig tree talon on this and your elephant ears are going to be ones that will have a seed for that. So they're going to have, you're going to have to research if it's going to be an angiosperm or gymnosperm for one of those. All right. So like I was saying, a gymnosperm, they expose their seeds. They don't have like a casing. They're by themselves. Examples like a pine, a spruce, ferns, conifer trees. Those they expose their seeds. Okay. Ferns is another one we talked about. I didn't have it in the video. We did have a segment of the video. It didn't get that part didn't come through with the filming of it, but they reproduce a little bit differently, meaning that they or you could also talk about the reproduction, how they produce when they're dropping their seeds, but some use different methods. Some drop their seeds, some have used the use of other animals or the wind to blow them, and other ones have spores. So spores can usually are really small and can not really see them, and they kind of get blown through with the wind. The wind usually spreads them. All right. All right, so gymnosperms expose their seeds, and examples are pine, spruce, ferns, conifers, and so on. Okay. So angiosperms, going to angiosperms here right now. They produce and store their seeds in an ovary, often called a fruit. Okay, so they have a casing that's in that fruit. So examples are your roses, your elm trees, your geraniums, apple trees. You may have some of those around your yard or your area there too. So angiosperms and gymnosperms. So if you could tell me the difference between those two, that'll be great. Okay. Um, if you guys have any more questions, this is, like I said, the perfect time to ask on what's due and when is certain things due. I do post these two on the Microsoft Teams page, so you kind of know as well. So just taking a break here. I only have one more little small segment to go over, and if there's any more questions, it's going to be on the types of seeds next, which if it's monocot or diacot, which I'll talk about the two differences. Those are the types of seeds that your plant can be, and how many there are in that seed. Okay, or that casing. All right. So, any other questions? So, Talon, hopefully you're enjoying this time. If you've done anything fun over the weekend, you can tell me something like that too while we're in here. Only have a couple people in here. If anyone else wants to chat about something that's kind of science related, if you got outside and did something fun, talk a little bit about that too over the weekend. Hopefully, I was hiking, so I got a nice 5 mile hike yesterday. I had to avoid some ticks on the hike. Had a few ticks on me. All right, your question here. Let's see. No, you don't have to dig it up or you don't have to cut it. Okay, you don't have to do anything like that. So you could just observe the leaves, observe the stems, observe the roots. You don't have to mutilate the plant, kill it, or anything like that. To do anything like that. The main thing you can usually using your observation and then your research on it. So you could use the internet, you could Google stuff about elephant ears or fig trees or Spanish moss, find that information online. There's a lot of resources. If you just Google certain parts of those, they're going to give you a lot of lists of the flowering name and the family, where it came from, their origin, their classification. You don't have to provide all that information, but that's going to give you some information that's going to lead to where you can find information on their roots and their leaves and their stems. But you could also make observations and write some things down off your observations. But no, I'm not having you guys. You don't have to cut it up or dig it up or anything like that. Okay, it's not going to really do any good to the plant or give you getting any of that information. So just really kind of make your observations, see how maybe look what the roots look like. So if you dig down and look at the roots, but you don't have to. You can dig a little bit, but you don't have to cut anything up. But you could, like, if you want to pry open the roots down into the ground a little bit to see what they might look like, or dig around it maybe a bit better instead of dig it out, or anything like that. You can kind of explore that. But a tree is going to be hard for you to do. But maybe the elephant ear, you maybe see what the roots may look like on the elephant ear for that. So good job. All right, I'm going to go back to the last segment here, and that last segment is going to be on the classifications of angiosperms. So they're broken down into the types of seed casings, monocots and dicots. So only angiosperms, the ones that have a covering, not the gymnosperms where it was an exposed seed or didn't have a seed, but they have the monocots are a single seed leaf, okay, called a cotyledon. All right, and the flowers or petals grow in groups of three usually. So the leaves have parallel veins as well on a monocot. But the main thing, mono means one, so it has one single leaf coating, okay, or a cotyledon is what they call it. Now, dicots, or before I get into dicots, this is still a little bit more on monocots or some of the types of plants that you may have. Flowers are often small and they're overlooked, and they usually grow for only 1 year. Okay, for example, corn, grasses, onions, lilies, and many grains are considered in a monocot type of covering for its seed. So if you have those things around your place, lilies, doubt you'll have any corn or grains unless you live out near a farm or you're farming some of those in maybe a garden, onions and so on. You could also use those or include those ones in there too. Anybody else? Looks like somebody else joined in here. Have any other questions, comments, concerns about what you're doing for this week? This is my time from 1 to 2 o'clock here on Ferko TV Live. I was on earlier from 8:30 to 9:30 this morning, and again I'll be on from 5 to 6 this evening. So that's my Monday schedule. Okay, Mondays and Wednesdays I am live for 6th grade science on here. Perfect time to ask questions. I try to have a little interaction with some of the people. If I looks like Talon, I believe he's still on here. Try to have interactions, to have a little conversation. You can write in the sidebar. I do appreciate that. It shows that you're willing to learn and wanting to learn. I know this is a new way of learning. This is all new for a lot of us, myself and other teachers and you guys. So hats off to you guys. You guys are doing a wonderful job at communicating and getting projects turned into me through email. So I'm very proud of all you guys. So you guys are really working hard at home too. So I know that things have changed. All right. I'm not sure what you wrote there, Talon. Caught a something. I don't know what that is. You have to explain that one to me. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's school related or something in a game related there, because it says something about Pokemon. So try to keep it with school related here. So I don't know if that's a type of flower. Is that what I'm assuming that's what it is. Maybe you spelled it wrong or whatnot. So you caught something on a Pokemon Go. So I don't know what that is. I know Pokemon Go, but I don't play that game. So Mr. Ferker doesn't do the games like you guys do. So I know a lot of you guys probably are doing a lot of those video games. So I'm not a gamer like some of you guys are. So yeah, I caught a. I can't make out. You'd have to respell that. I think you misspelled that, and I can't decipher what that means. But anyhow, moving on to diacots. All right, the last segment here. We talked about mono meaning one, diacot means two, di means two. So it has two seed leaves or two cotyledons. So the flowers or petals grow in groups of 4 or 5. Okay, and they have leaves that have network veins that branch out. So they're a little bit different. So if you could include that in your plant, tell me if the seed is a monocot or dicot if you have an angiosperm, which has to be under a vascular plant, which could be a fig tree or an elephant ears that you mentioned earlier there, Talon, who's still on the chat session here. Okay, now dicots, like I said, they have the greatest number of plants. The greatest number of plants are dicots, like your daffodils, dandelions. They're probably going to be a dicot. They tend to live a long time, one season or many. Okay, they produce food, clothing, and housing. Okay, so that's some of the things that they're responsible for. And examples are just trees in general. Sunflower. Okay, sunflower, like sunflower seeds, beans, pumpkins, and even clovers are considered to be under that classification of a dicot, meaning have two seed coverings, okay, or two seed leaves, I should say. Okay, all right. Okay, looks like Talon, you were going to write something else in here. Says something about the message. I didn't come all the way through. Looks like you're still on here. You and a few others. Okay. Oh, you're right. Can I do more than three plants? If you choose, if you have more than three plants that you're interested in, you're doing, yeah. If you want to include a fourth plant, that's fine, or fifth, that's fine with me. Three's all I'm asking you to do, because I understand some people may not have flowers right in their backyard. You might have to go a little further in their neighborhood to find them, and so on. So, yeah, if you want to do more than three, that's great. Okay, so but I'm only requiring you to do three to compare and contrast for vascular, non-vascular, angiosperm, gymnosperm, monocot, dicot, and the main functions, the five main functions of the plant: the roots, the stems, the leaves, the flower, and the seeds. So getting information on all five of those parts, plus telling me if they're vascular, non-vascular, if they're monocot, dicot, or if they're gymnosperm, angiosperm. So there's some classifications. And the brain pop will also help you too, give you some visuals on the seed plants. Okay, so you'll find some information on that, and make sure you do that by Friday. I understand if you have technical difficulties on the computer, that's always a challenge, or it can be a little bit harder to do. But it's out there. So you have to log in through Clever, like I said, stated earlier, for that. So I'm just trying to keep it simple for you guys here. I know this is, like I said, this is a new way of learning for you and for me, and keeping track of assignments and assigning things and things that are easy to do at home and through online resources, and stuff that we're related to in our science book that we've been covering throughout the year. So we're done with cells. You guys did a nice job on these cells projects. The cells were great. We covered animal and plant cells, and you worked on even drawing them in class before we were on spring break. And now it's been like 3 weeks since we've seen some of you guys. So, and then you had the cell project with it. So you guys really got a lot of information down on parts or organelles and how they work and how they function, from the nucleus to cell wall to cell membrane. And, cells the smallest basic unit of living function. So anything alive has a cell in it, so you can study that, and they're going to have these basic parts. So that's what's really unique about them. And cells, like our cells, we have trillions of cells in our body. So it's kind of relating things from very small to very complex, like a human or an animal, and comparing how things work together. So that's kind of how what makes it unique with science, and how these things come together and work together. Let's see here. So we have dicots, monocots. We covered all that. Types of plants, non-vascular, vascular. So I've covered the main ideas. So looks like I still have one other person in here. Talon, are you still in here? It looks like you're still here. You wrote earlier if you could do more than three plants, which I said is perfectly fine. Oh, what's that? Oh, vote. You know what? We're not going to vote at this moment. I need to write some of voting on the projects yet. I'm still collecting, and a lot of them are due today. So, I'll have to figure out a way how we're going to take a vote on who had the best. There are some really good ones. I know Mr. Canley and I have both been collecting a bunch of them on email, so I've got a lot of pictures of them. So I'll try to figure out how we're going to make a voting system, like we talked about making a competition of it. So like I said, we're still collecting it, but we'll try to get some information on how we can get those out and take a vote on who had the best sell project. But a lot of these were really good, and I understand everyone has something different. Some people use different things than others. Some used not just candy; they used items from home, strawberries, and I've seen fruit and oranges and other things inside these projects. So they were very creative and they were very good. So it's very hard to take who did the best out of it all, but there were some really cool and really good projects. So appreciate all your hard work. So yeah, we'll try to work on figuring out somehow we can make a vote on it. But we just wanted to make it a little fun for you to try to have a competition and try to throw a little humor in there with you guys there too. So but stay tuned for our segments. We have one out right now, the one on plants. So make sure you take a view of that. Hopefully you saw that video, Talon. So right in the sidebar, if you saw that video with Mr. Cantalou and I, we put that out this morning. It should be on Microsoft Teams, so it should be out there. So if you saw the video, just respond on here saying that you viewed it. Like I said, this is a perfect time to ask any questions that you may have about the project. I kind of talked about every part. Okay, good. You saw it. Excellent. I'm glad that you saw it. So you kind of saw what we had to do, and you're hearing what I'm saying right now, plus the information that you have on Microsoft Teams that I put out, and you have till Friday to do this on a piece of paper. Like I said, you could do more than 3 plants if you want, but 3 is always required. So if you have a lot of plants in your neighborhood and you want to compare some, that'll be great. Um, but I appreciate you being here and participating in today's lesson. So we're almost done for today. I'll still be on here, but if you don't have any more questions about anything, you can sign off. So I only have you, I believe, are the only one in here. So it's just you and I chatting right now. So I'm sure you can hear me, and you can write on the sidebar there, and just let me know when you leave, so I know that you won't be here. But you know, I covered all the parts. You could go back and rewatch this. Any of you guys can watch any of them. I have a morning segment. It was about 57 minutes, just talking about the same stuff I'm talking about now. So I'll keep this one up here too, and I'll be back on at 5 and 6 o'clock tonight too. Um, so I'm glad you were able to watch today's video on the sales that we put out, and that is the lesson for today. So like I said, I was covering the 5 main parts of plants today and the groups and classifications of them, the non-vascular and vascular. And you are to go out to your neighborhood and your backyards and come up with 3 plants and research those 3 plants of some of the things we talked about, and the main 5 functions, and because all of them are going to be a little bit different, how your your plant gets water, how it takes in photosynthesis might be a little bit different if you have a vascular compared to a non-vascular plant. So they might be a little bit different. So it's going to be your job to go and research it. So you can type in the name of your plant, find its classification, if it's non-vascular or not. So you're going to provide a compare and contrast of paragraphs of the different types of plants that you have, because they're all going to be the same. Like you mentioned here, you're going to have a fig tree, Spanish moss, and elephant ears. So got 3 excellent choices there. Okay. Anybody else in here? Looks like Talon, are you still here? It was good communicating with you. If you're still here or not, segment's just about over. So if you don't have any more questions, all right, you are signing off there. So all right, Talon, you have a wonderful afternoon. Hopefully you get outside, get some fresh air, and start looking at some plants. And like I said, you have the whole week till Friday to get this in. And hopefully your brain pop works too. I know you mentioned you had some problems getting on the brain pop, so hopefully you should sign in through Clever that way. And that's where I signed some the brain pop on seed plants for you to get some background information on that too. Okay. Anybody else in here want to say hi? Any questions about the assignment or about plants? I'm going to go back into this earlier segment, get some information that I talked about on plants and or my morning session. These will all be on Ferko TV, you could pull any of the segments up. They're pretty much all the same today, just kind of just might be a tad different because I've communicated with some students in each one of these, so and some dialogue and conversations with students, which is good for those that are checking in. Well, looks like I only have one person in here, so you can ask any questions if you have any. Be wrapping up this segment here shortly. This session, you can go back in and listen to what I said on plants or the assignment that you have. It's also there's a video that was put out today with Mr. Canelo and I on the on plants and your project that'll be due on Friday. And don't forget the cell projects due today. So I've been getting a lot of those turned in. So good job on you guys turning in your work. So excellent job. Okay, well, looks like there's only one person in here, so if there's no other questions, I'm gonna be signing off here. It's almost just about 2 o'clock, a couple minutes shy of 2, and I will be back on at 5 to 6 tonight as well. Like I said, my information is out on Microsoft Teams, and you can communicate with me through email. So good job getting your self projects turned in. They are due today, so good job with that. And then I'll be back on to talk more on plants, similar segment though I have here for later, and about your plant project that'll be due this upcoming Friday, along with a brain pop if you have access to your Clever account at home, which you should. Okay. Well, I'm signing off for this afternoon. Go out and have a good rest of your afternoon. Get some fresh air, and hope to see you guys back or anybody back here from 5 to 6 tonight. All right, guys. Have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.